Attention parents and coaches. Do you wish you had a safe social media platform for your youth athletes? Fortunately for you, there's a revolutionary new app that helps with just that. Introducing Small Player, Big Play. Small Player, Big Play app provides young athletes, parents, and coaches a user-friendly sports social media platform. The app allows users to connect with friends, make new friends, create groups, text, chat, and post pictures and videos of you and your teammates participating in your favorite sport or activity. To begin, users can simply download and sign up for the app using an email account. Younger users have the ability to sign up using their smartphone and a parent's email address. From there, users can begin to interact and engage with other users of the app. Small Player Big Play app also gives users the ability to live stream full games and events. You can live stream your event so that friends, family, or anyone in the world can see you in action. Users can also share posts from the app to their other social media accounts like Facebook and Twitter. What are you waiting for? Get in the game and share your love of sports with the world. Download the Small Player Big Play app today.
Are you ready to listen to my dad Joe and Uncle Justin talk about sports? Now on with the show!
The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop, which have been serving the greater West Lawn area delicious food for over 70 years. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
Boring.
A weekly podcast about sports since 2011,
Don't you ever get tired of being wrong all the time?
with a focus on football.
Kansas City 31, San Francisco 20. Mahomes takes the snap. He is just going to throw it long for Demarcus Robinson. It is going to use up all the time. The game is over, and the Chiefs' kingdom has firmly planted its flag on top of football's highest summit. The Kansas City Chiefs are champions of Super Bowl 54.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and joining me, yes, he is here in studio, but we are socially distanced, so he's a little bit away, but I will pull him up and let you see Mr. Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be here. We are following the protocols like we have for all our shows since we've been back. But it is fun to do the show in person here, where we've gotten used to doing the show like this for years and years and years. So it is fun to be back here. I was saying to someone the other day how it is a lot easier, or I guess more natural, to do the show this way than it is on the phone. Just it's more conversational, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely is. I enjoy it much more than doing it via phone, but
you do what you got to do.
Strange times called for something different.
Right,
so.
And I would rather talk on the phone or through the internet or whatever with you about sports than not.
Right.
That's just crazy talk.
That's not happening.
Yeah.
Again, that's the reason we started the show, was because we were essentially doing this anyways,
Exactly.
whether it was voice or text, talking about all these different things. But so we're back. A little bit of a surprise being back on this show.
Yeah.
We were supposed to be doing Bulldog Hour for the majority of August, but related to the coronavirus, things are thrown off, delayed. But there will be high school sports in Pennsylvania.
We'll take delayed.
We'll
take delayed.
Right, that's happening actually tomorrow. Some sports are allowed to start. It depends on the individual leagues and schools now. The PIAA said, yes, go ahead. You can start Monday the 24th. But some leagues, like both Berks County Interscholastic Athletic Association and the Lancaster Lebanon League, have pushed everything another week for football. There are a few sports that can start tomorrow, like golf, tennis, and cross country, I believe. And then the following week is when the majority of the sports are going to get started. I think actually as soon as Friday, September 4th, boys and girls soccer, field hockey, water polo, girls volleyball, all those fall sports, everything will be up and running within 2 weeks, and hopefully with the start of school, everything will be okay, and we can get a sense of normalcy back, and high school sports are a part of that, and they're going to at least give it a go, and that's all we could ask for.
That's right. Yes, yeah, like you said, and we were talking about this kind of a little bit before, like, they're going to give it a shot and see what happens. So the things are in place. It's kind of up to the people to make it happen now. You want it, do what you're supposed to do, right? And hopefully that will help get the desired result.
Absolutely. So we are here back on the regular show this week, but from here on out, we are going to be doing Bulldog Hour. So you'll have to hold off on any more NHL or NFL talk until probably sometime in November. Knock on wood. I want it to be that way, because if we're not doing Bulldog Hour, there's two bad things that could have happened. One, coronavirus got its way, or two, Wilson is not doing well enough to play into November. So I really hope that we're not doing episode 315 of this show until, closer to Thanksgiving.
Right, exactly.
But we're going to talk hockey tonight, because we haven't talked hockey since, honestly, what was it, right before the shutdown? Did we talk about how hot the Flyers were?
Right, how incredibly hot they were.
And here we are, 5+ months later, and we'll guess
still hot.
Still pretty hot. I mean, they cooled off a bit. They had a little tough go of it in their first round series.
Yeah.
But if you were following the playoffs, you were following the tune-up series, the round robin, the play-in series, and then the first round, you knew that their matchup with the Canadians wasn't exactly an easy one, even though they were the 12th seed.
Right. By the numbers, it would be. But they moved right through their preliminary round, like where they had to earn their way in.
Yeah. Against the Penguins, too.
Right. So
they cast them aside in 4 games.
Carey Price was Carey Price of old. That's not to knock Carey Price of now, but just, he was making it happen, and the Flyers, got some great games out of Carter Hart, and yeah, it was fun to watch. It was, well, I know we're going to get into this, but basically one of the things that I thought about was a lot the last week or so was how coming into this restart of the NHL, you explained to our group, you were talking about how the Flyers were in a great position because they got into that 4th seed right before things shut down. And then when that happened, the way the restart was set up, they had these round robins, and they could not hurt themselves. The worst they could be is 4 coming out of the round robin. The best they could be is 1. And they won their way up to that 1st seed, which then creates the matchup with the Canadians. And yeah, it's one series at a time. And once you get, especially through that first round, and honestly in hockey you see upsets a lot. But now that you're through that first round, it's going to obviously continue to get tougher. But man, the Flyers, for the most part, were able to pick up where they left off and kind of keep going. And again, the numbers, you look, oh man, a 1 seed against what was a 12 seed and then, was just the lowest remaining seed. Yeah, it's not that simple though, because it's not, like you said, it's 5 months removed. These teams aren't exactly what they were in a week into March.
Right. It was amazing in that round robin to see them play the way they did, because those games, they weren't all dominant wins, but they were all nice wins that they had incredible performances. They had great goaltending, and they had some clutch scores. Their biggest negative, and this followed them into the first round, was a lack of power play prowess. Yes. They've really struggled in that category, and if they want to be a legit Stanley Cup contender, they're going to have to figure that out. Because now, after going 3-0 in the round robin, earning that Eastern Conference #1 seed, they have to play the Islanders, who also were, they were fighting to get into the playoffs. I think they were they the what seed were they?
I don't know.
I'm trying to think now off the top of my head what seed they were, but I mean, they obviously they weren't one of the top 4. They were in the lower half. They upset the Capitals in the first round, and going into even the round robin play. Actually, this may have been like when the restart of training camp happened in July. On the Athletic, the one writer, Charlie, put out his list of the 11 possible opponents for the Flyers, like on their way to the Stanley Cup, and I think this actually was specifically who would you most want to see the Flyers play in the first round, the first meaningful round. And both the Canadiens and Islanders are right in the middle. They weren't the easiest, but they weren't the toughest either.
Right.
But they were because of their seeding, you would expect them to see them higher on the list. Like, yeah, you want to play them,
right?
But no, you don't. And we saw why in the Canadian series, because how they were under 500 in the regular season just blows my mind.
Right.
Because of the way they played Pittsburgh and Philadelphia over the last few weeks. Montreal was a tough out, and again, you get a hot goaltender, and Carey Price has been one of the best, if not the best, for a decade now. That can just carry a team, and that gritty chippiness and just like won't go away. They're just a pain in the butt. They blew out the team the one time. Now it's the Islanders, and they're coached by Barry Trotz, who just won the World Series, just won the Stanley Cup 2 years ago with the Capitals. And he has them playing really well too, and they're going to pose nightmare matchups for the Flyers. Now, the Flyers have the better talent than the Canadiens, and they came out on top, and they have the better talent on paper than the Islanders. But it's going to come down to Carter Hart again. He's got to be able to play the way he did in the round robin. He played 2 of the 3 round robin games. And then he played really well in 4 of the 6 games against the Canadiens. Yeah. And, the series ending 4-2, you can kind of figure out when Hart wasn't at the top of his game.
And one of those he was not good. And the other, it was not as drastic, but he wasn't good enough. And you don't need a shutout every night.
It certainly helps.
But if you don't let the other team score, you win in hockey. Like, it's not going to end in a tie. If you don't give up a goal, you will win. And so, I mean, that's huge. You look at that, and that also takes some stress when you're getting those great goaltending outings. It takes some stress away from that power play, even though you're right, they need that to come through. The way people are talking, and I say people, I mean, just like the announcers as you're watching and stuff like that. I say announcers, analysts and things like that. I think a lot of people are going to be on the Islanders in this next round.
I could see that.
And the Islanders are certainly good enough to do it. That's not it. But like you said, it would be a shame because I feel like the ceiling for this Flyers team is really high. But we'll see. They've got to put it together. They played good enough to beat the Canadiens, and they beat them 4-2. But, there are some moments where you're like, oh my gosh, like, you need to get this under control. And you can't have as many of those against the Islanders because I think, at least the way they've been playing right now, the Islanders are better than the Canadiens. And like you said, they're really well coached. A coach who has just been there and done that. So they're going to have to step it up. And you see that that's what happens in the playoffs, though. You survive in advance, and now you need to regroup. You need to, tighten things up. You need to get better in this round if you want to advance. You can't have step backs. Now, the advantage to a sport like hockey is it's a series, so if you can limit that step back to a game or so, that's not the end of the world. It's not one and done like the NFL or something like that. But you dig yourself a hole against a good team, it's over. You can't let that happen. So they need to regroup and come out strong and get game one. Get game one, get some confidence going. Maybe get a couple goals on the power play would be nice to kind of get that rolling and have a solid performance from Carter Hart, and we'll keep things going.
So where would you? What are your predictions for this round against the Islanders?
I'm gonna go Flyers in 6.
Same thing, Flyers in 6.
Yeah, I've seen them rise to the occasion a lot the last 8 months.
You're not wrong. You're
right.
not wrong. So
More for the first 3 and then this one. But I just think I like where they're at. I like that while things aren't perfect, great teams find a way to win. I feel like these Flyers teams are finding a way to win, and it not necessarily every game. And that's not, they're not a dominant team, but they're a really good team. And a really good team over the course of 7 games is gonna get their chances. And I think the Flyers can get enough of those chances, and I think they can make the most of them. Like, look at the room for improvement. Imagine if they had played perfectly and eked out a couple wins and win 4-2 against the Canadiens. Then I'm thinking, I don't know that they've got it. But I'd say they played B. Like, if I had to give them a grade, I'd give them a B. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they played pretty solid. Had some down moments. Had some great moments. Room for improvement.
right.
Well, if they get to B+ or A-, an A- I think certainly gets us through.
Yep.
B+ I think might be like a 7-game series. I think they're getting to that A- in this round. Like, that's probably my fandom and my biases coming through, but they get to an A-, I think they win in 6, or and get it done.
So let's just recap before we move on a little bit, because we've been mentioning a lot of these things, but let's get some of the numbers. So the Flyers went 3-0 in the round robin play. They opened the round robin play in the Eastern Conference against the Bruins, who they beat 4-1. It was a very, very good game. They looked in control. Of course, Boston was at full strength at that time. They still had Rask, and Pasternak was not injured. They were off for a few days before beating the Capitals. That one was a little closer, but they ended up winning 3-1. And then they took apart the Lightning 4-1. And so they beat the East 2 top seeds going into, before the pause, 4-1.
Well, and it was interesting for the Lightning too, for the Capitals too, because they kind of were the opposite of some of these teams that were able to stay hot through the long break.
So Philly entered the Montreal game as the number 1 seed, hosting the worst team left, which ended up being the Canadiens after they upset the Penguins in 5. Philadelphia won 4 out of the 6 games to clinch the series, but it wasn't easy. Philadelphia won the first game 2-1, so close, tight, but just showed that they could play the Canadiens game and still win without some of their top talent rising up. But then they got absolutely shellacked the next day, losing the next game 5-0, and we were in for a series. Thankfully, Carter Hart stepped up his game, and the defense helped him out immensely the next 2 contests, winning by shutout 1-0 and 2-0. But
that's insane.
Yeah, they couldn't put it away though, and lost to the Canadiens 5-3, and that was a back and forth game.
Right, and that's the one where he didn't play well enough. But I look at that one as the dude just gave you back-to-back shutouts. Yeah. And I know the 5th goal, they scored 4, but that 5th goal, I know,
empty netter.
Right, but at the same time, I'm just you've got to be kidding. It didn't feel like they gave up 5 goals in that game to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I understand. I get it.
As opposed to game 2, where it seemed like, how many did they want to score? That's what they were going to score, kind of thing.
Yeah. Thankfully, they came back 2 days later, and despite their best efforts, they were able to hold on. Carter Hart looked very good.
That third period,
that was rough.
It was rough, but when I think about it, that's what elimination hockey a lot of times looks like. The team that is with their back against the wall, the Canadiens, was full on pressure and was, putting it on. That's what you expect to see. It's not, you can't just run the clock down, in hockey.
No.
You can't do that. So it was, Carter Hart had his moments.
Not a ton of time off, which I kind of like. They pick up play tomorrow against the Islanders, 7 o'clock. They'll be the designated home team. The Islanders are the 6th seed, but they've been as hot as the Flyers and the Canadiens were entering their series. The Islanders are 7-2 in 9 games. They were able to send the Florida Panthers packing in the play-in series, sweeping them 3-0. Remember, that was a best of 5. And then they took the Capitals out. That was the number 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. Then they won their series 4-2.
You may know this better than I do, but we talk about the designated home team, and people may think, oh, that's not that big of a deal, but I believe in hockey,
the changes.
Right, yeah. Like when you do the changes at stoppages, the home team gets to send their line out second. So you get to see who the other team is putting out there before you decide.
And matchups are huge in hockey.
Right, and you mentioned there are some tough matchups for the Flyers in this round. That having that advantage where in more of the games, in 4 of the games, if needed, they would have the home or that second choice. Yeah, it's like getting to bat in the bottom of the 9th, kind of. You know, like you go out knowing, or like, you know, in college football, how a lot of teams pick to be on defense first because then they know what they have. Like, it's just there's a little bit more of the known. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say there's a ton of. The Islanders don't have a ton of big name talent, but I would say that about the Canadians too, because besides Carey Price, what NHL fan knows a ton of Montreal Canadian players? Not too many.
No.
Like, I don't know if before I started watching the series, if I could have named a Canadian other than Carey Price. I really don't know.
Domi was the only one because I read a story on him earlier this year. That was the only reason, though. That's the only reason.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting with the Islanders as well. They sort of had a split in goal this year, but Semyon Varlamov is the guy. He started 45 games for them, and I would think he gets the nod over Thomas Greiss. But like name-wise, there's just not a lot of big names, at least not the ones that are going to be dangerous and ones that you're going to have to keep an eye on. Their best players are Matthew Barzal, Brock Nelson, and Anders Lee. They were their top 3 points accumulators this season. Perhaps people know the name Derek Brassard and Johnny Boychuk, Matt Martin, and they also have Andrew Ladd, but he has very, very sparingly played. So really Varlamov, the goalie, and honestly Derek Brassard and Johnny Boychuk are probably the name-wise that I know. I don't know a lot of these other players. I'm not familiar with their names. I know there's probably a large contingent that are big Josh Bailey fans, but really, I don't know. I probably know this team less than I know the Canadiens team, which is surprising because I didn't know any of the Canadiens either.
That's where I would probably fall to.
It's something, but they're just very similar to the Canadiens in the terms of they're a poor matchup for the Flyers. They're a very good forechecking team. They just match up well against those more talented, higher ceiling players, and they're just what Flyers teams like to be built on in the past in toughness and grit. I feel like the Islanders and Canadiens are teams that use that to their advantage, to be pain in the butt. Stick around, and then if they take advantage of situations that you give them, whether it's a turnover, or power play or something like that, those are things that'll keep them in the game. If the Flyers can minimize their mistakes and play their game and not get stuck into a rut at center ice, they'll be okay. So, I think I'm with you though. I think a lot of people are gonna maybe think, oh, maybe the Islanders can pull this upset, and people are gonna be jumping on the Islanders after the way the Flyers and the Canadian series went. where really that series was very close, even though it was decided in 6, not 7. 2 Flyers shutouts, close games, and then the other 2 Flyers victories were only by a goal as well. The Flyers are due for a big outburst offensively, and they haven't gotten it yet.
I'd take that in game 1. That would be nice.
I'd take that in the first 4 games.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think
20 goals over the first 4 games.
5-1 games the first 4.
Yeah.
I think the Flyers are gonna, for some reason, I think they're going to respond to the challenge that the Canadians gave them and not let the Islanders stick around. I think the Flyers win it in 5.
Oh man, that would be awesome. Because let's be honest, if they do it in 5, then we're looking at they didn't just survive in advance. They're becoming a well-oiled machine at that time. It's how you start to feel if they're able to really start to ramp it up. That would be exciting. That would be really exciting.
Josh Bailey is the Islanders' leading point scorer so far for the Islanders. In 9 games, he's got 10 points, 2 goals, 8 assists. Their leading goal scorer is Anthony Beauvillier. I can't even say his last name. He's got 6 goals and 9 total points. And I didn't mention Jean-Gabriel Pageau. He's a bigger name too. He is second on the team in goals and right up there in the top 5 in points as well. So those are your big names. But Semyon Varlamov is the goalie. He's 7-2, and his goals against average in the playoffs 1.67.
Let's see that go up.
Yeah,
so we'll be all right.
His save percentage is up at 9.34. So, yeah, the Islanders are playing very, very well defensively. They're getting obviously enough goals when they need to, but defensively, they just really, really been.
It's kind of funny because that's at least how I remember it. That's very different than the way the Capitals did it 2 years ago. When you're talking about the coach. They had offense, but I believe they had goalie issues into the playoffs that year, and then they had a goalie kind of secure the job in the playoffs. So just kind of interesting that this coach has taken multiple styles into the playoffs and found some success both ways.
So in the 9 games the Islanders have played, no opponent has scored more than 3 goals against them in 9 games. They won games 2-1, 4-2. They then lost the game 3-2, but then they won 5-1. So I'm sorry, they did not win their first series 3-0. It was 3-1. I messed that one up.
Way to go.
Yeah, sorry. But then they beat
the Capitals. That changes everything.
They beat the Capitals 4-2. 5-2, 2-1 in overtime to go up 3-0. They then lost 3-2 and then won 4-0. So there's shutouts in there. There's 2 or 1 goal games. I don't know that the Flyers are going to be able to win a 1-0, 2-0 game. I feel like the offense is gonna have to light the lamp to beat this team.
Yeah.
And
I look at
hopefully they wake up because they didn't score as much as we had hoped they would against the Canadians.
And I look at it. Also, though, you didn't see a ton of games where their offense for the Islanders was just destroying teams, even though their defense was doing really well. I feel like, I just feel like the Flyers are going to step up. I really do.
I do too.
I think they take a step forward.
I do too. And
I'm ready to be hurt again.
Well, we'll find out tomorrow night, 7 o'clock against the Islanders. They'll follow that up with an afternoon game, 3 o'clock on Wednesday, and then again right back the next day, Thursday at 7. So we've got 3 Flyers games in the next 4 days, and by the time the weekend gets here, we should have a pretty clear picture of if this is going to be a 6-7 game series or if this could be a shorter series. Hopefully, no matter what, it's in the Flyers' favor. So Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday are the first 4 games alternating late evening and afternoon, 7, 3, 7, 12. So, yeah, by the time we have our Bulldog Hour next weekend, 4 games will be done in the Flyers-Islanders series. And hopefully it works in the Flyers' favor.
Maybe we'll be able to celebrate a Flyers sweep at our fantasy draft next weekend.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Like, as much as I don't like the matchup with the Islanders for the Flyers, I still go back to talent and potential on paper, the overall group, the Lightning and Bruins are better than the Islanders. That's why they're the 2 and the 4 seed in the playoffs now. It's why they were the 1 and 2 seed before the round robin started. The Bruins and Lightning are better than the Islanders, and not having to play them in the second round can only work in Philadelphia's favor.
Right.
So now you got to
look at
cast that aside and win these games.
Right, because you look, if you had to pick any of the teams that were in that previous round, I would have picked the Canadians. Not saying they're not good. They're here, they're playing. Like, obviously, they have talent, and they have a great goaltender, like you said. But again, if I'm looking at the remaining 3 teams that are possible for the Flyers to have been playing,
I'm picking the Islanders every time.
Without question. And that means, you're saying your path is Canadians, Islanders, and then
one of the
Bruins
top 2 teams.
or Lightning?
Right.
So, yeah, sign me up. If you would have said, coming into the restart, that would have been your path, I don't know who wouldn't have taken that.
Right.
And the thing is, against this Islanders team, like you said, if they don't get it done, they don't deserve it. They need to get it done. It's not like there's things going against them here. They need to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, and I know immediately before, if the Flyers beat the Islanders and get to the Eastern Conference Final for the first time in a decade,
then they'll definitely be an underdog in the next round.
They'll probably be an underdog in the next round, especially if they have a tough time with the Islanders. But even so, until they beat the Lightning or the Bruins to get to the Stanley Cup, people are just going to scream, "Oh, you beat the 12 seed and the 6 seed."
Right.
It doesn't matter that those teams had to upset teams that were in front of them to begin with.
Right, exactly.
But it's just like there's 45 of all but 45 years of angst built up in Philadelphia, and people just throw everything at them when it comes to Flyers hockey because it's been, over 4.5 decades or almost 4.5 decades since the Stanley Cup has been here. So people are going to look for other reasons to chide this team and the fan base, but I don't care at all. Like, it makes no difference to me whatsoever. Whoever the lowest seed out in West, if that's who the Flyers play, and if they should get there and they end up winning, I don't care if it was the 9th seed or whatever.
I do not care.
One iota.
Nope.
I do not care.
Nope.
Whatsoever. So go ahead, bring it on, all of you Penguins fans and Devils fans or Rangers fans. If you think any of us that I care about,
and I feel like the Penguins are even least on that list because they lost to the Canadians.
Right.
Like,
you lost to them in 4 games, and we just beat in 6. So yeah, I don't want to hear it, but it's going to come up. So I figured we'd maybe address it off the top. But
people only hate when you matter.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, people only care about you when you're good.
Right.
So if the haters are coming out, that just means one thing, and I will take it. So, yeah, talking Flyers feels good. Excellent start to the playoffs, and hopefully can continue, and we'll be watching Flyers hockey into the greatest month of the year, October.
Oh, man.
So let's talk a little bit of football here. Don't exactly have anything specific to say, but without any preseason games, not a lot's been going on, but it is kind of interesting to think that in 18 games, the first NFL contest kicks off. The Chiefs on Thursday night.
It does feel like out of nowhere, just because of the way the sports world has been. Wow.
Yeah, so Labor Day is September 7th. That Thursday, the 10th, is the first NFL game.
Yeah, you know what? That means, this week we're going to hit the halfway of training camp, aren't we?
We might be there now.
I was going to say, I was just kind of buying myself a little bit of time to wiggle room. But yeah, teams report that, yeah. Wow.
I know. It's interesting to think of. Of course, talking NFL and promising my uncle we'd be live, he had something to chime in about, and it was actually to call us out that we screwed up our picks a month ago when we did the AFC East, and more specifically, he's talking about our playoff pick because he says we each had at least one, if not 2, third-place teams make the playoffs over our second-place teams. So I guess we were second-guessing ourselves there of who we wanted where. So Uncle Rich says, just a note on your wild card picks. Joe, you took the third-place Falcons over your second-place Saints for the wild card, and I took the third-place Cardinals over the second-place 49ers for the wild card. But I did take the second-place Eagles. Justin, you took third-place 49ers over your second-place Cardinals.
I knew I did that when I made the call, too.
So we both had issues in the NFC West. he says, "Don't worry about making mistakes. I'll keep track of them for you." And then he says, "Getting ready for our draft." So we've been in a fantasy football league that I've been running for now.
man.
I think this is the 16th year.
Oh my gosh.
We started in 2005, and most of the original crew is still here in some form.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's, let's see if I can do this off the top of my head and not forget anyone. So it's me, my dad, and my cousin Todd, my cousin Nick, then Uncle Bob and Uncle Rich came in a few years after we started, but he's in there. That's one division. That's the family division, we call it. And then, well, actually, I think Nick might be in the other division. But now, most recently, my sister-in-law Amy is joining us this year. We've got Adam, we've got Greg, we have you, and then also Jason and Isaac,
Right.
who are the defending champions
Right.
of our
Right.
league. And they will get the trophy, which is being redone as we speak.
All right.
It's going to have nice new plates on it, recognizing our champions. 15 of them. Crazy. Started with the fall of 05. And
How many times are you on there?
I'm on there twice.
Okay. All right.
I'm on there twice. I know, you're on there twice as much as that. And my uncle's
Oh,
also...
am I? That's just coincidence.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. I just was wondering.
And the thing that pains me is that I've lost to you and my uncle in the championship. So the only thing worse would be losing to my dad, probably.
Oh,
I
gosh.
got to beat him in the championship already, so that's always fun. I think that actually was that the first year. I can't remember if that was my first championship or second championship. Beating my dad and Todd is always the best. Nothing will ever top when they went undefeated in the regular season and then I beat them in the first round of the playoffs, though. That will forever be
That was
my
very
favorite
Cowboys of them.
Yeah.
So.
They also have two titles on their
Yes.
to their credit as well. So does Greg. So making its way around. Just a couple teams left out. I know Uncle Rich, I think, has 3. So yeah, good stuff. But yeah, my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law Amy is joining us, and she is being known as the Steel City Divas. So we get a little Pittsburgh flavor.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little worried about the Steel City Divas.
So I did talk
a little bit of a wrinkle and an unknown in the league this year.
Yeah, well, and this isn't her first time.
No,
She's
I'm
been playing.
I'm aware. That's why I'm nervous.
I'm a little anxious here.
Sorry, I'm yelling. I'm just getting anxious here.
She's been playing fantasy football for probably as long as I have, and I don't know how many times she's won, but she is routinely very good.
So she's gonna come in and wipe the floor with all of us, isn't she?
She's also taking over Terry's team, and as much as crap as we've given Terry in the past, last year he was the runner-up.
The cupboard is not bare.
Right. No, she had to choose between just these 3. I don't even know what the rest were, but she had to choose between Tyreek Hill, who was the other one? Well, Lamar Jackson and Ezekiel Elliott. She actually let Lamar Jackson go, and I talked to her this weekend about why, because I said that I was surprised she wasn't keeping Lamar, and she said that she just thought that she could get an equal of quarterback, but not so much in the wide receiver and running back.
You can get quarterbacks a lot more readily available.
But the main reason was because she's a huge Steelers fan. She hates having to root for a fellow AFC North team. So she just couldn't keep Lamar Jackson. And I know a lot of people will think that's crazy, but I get it when you talk about the fandoms. But also, I know this sounds blasphemous, but I still am not sold that Lamar Jackson's going to be what he was last year. And I know people said that about Mahomes last year after his 2018, and he still had a pretty darn good 2019. I mean, I think Chiefs fans would take what happened in 2019 over 2018.
Right. And you know what? I think Ravens fans would sign up because, look, if you look at it that way, Mahomes and the Chiefs had a disappointing end to their season in the playoffs 2 years ago. And then Mahomes stepped up even more and had an incredible year and got them over the hump, and they win the Super Bowl this year. How crazy would it be if Lamar and the Ravens did just that and they get over the hump this year you know what I mean?
Yep.
I know it's not exactly the same, but just it would be kind of crazy.
Yep.
I know I've mentioned to you that there's 3 Heisman winning quarterbacks in that division.
Right.
3 out of the last 4 Heisman winning quarterbacks
Yeah.
are out of that division.
It's crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's going to be nuts. But
So-
I get that. I get that.
Do you have any? I mean, it's tough for us to talk about this since we have our draft coming up next weekend. I was going to ask you about, like, do you have any sleepers? But that's not really something that you want to openly discuss, as like 80% of the people watching the
here we
show
go.
are
Here
in
we
the
go.
league.
Like, can you pull up the list of the keepers? Because like that,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if we talk about those.
Right?
because
No, yeah, we can.
they're
definitely-
already off the board.
Yeah, actually, I have them right here.
I believe I kept Alvin Kamara.
You
who
did.
I was
You have Hopkins and Kamara.
right. I was struggling with Kamara because he was kind of a letdown last year. Not that he had a terrible year, but he was just nothing really guaranteed. And I know you've been sold on this, like selling the
I've been
Saints
selling
falling
the Saints
forever.
for 5 years now.
But I think he has, like I said, he wasn't terrible, but like I don't know that he was keeper worthy. But I kind of went that route. I also thought I'd get a wide receiver and a running back to kind of start instead of 2 wide receivers. But we'll see. I don't know. Who'd you end up keeping?
So I kept Deshaun Watson and Dalvin Cook.
So not James Conner. And
No,
Julio
so like,
Jones.
yeah, I got burned on the Steelers connection last year when Big Ben went down in the first half of the first game or whatever it was.
So-
because then Juju never really got going, and everyone focused on Connor, and Connor was dealing with injuries, so neither of them.
Amy should be thrilled then because the Steelers and Juju and
They're
Connor
available.
are going to have a huge. Well, no, they're going to have a huge.
Oh, because
year.
I let him go,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I kept Deshaun and Dalvin. The only other people that I really considered besides the 2 Steelers was I for a hot second I considered Kenny Galladay because I think he's establishing himself as the main guy in Detroit. But
Yeah.
again, Stafford was just inconsistent last year, and the team wasn't very good overall. And I was like, who do I not keep to keep Galladay? Do I drop
Right.
Dalvin Cook? But I honestly think it plays better that they're not doing the contract talk anymore, but he is playing because
Yeah.
now he's trying to prove that he needs the new contract. I mean, actually, I think he becomes a free agent after this year.
I think
So
so.
they'll obviously franchise him, but he's out there to prove that he's worth the franchise and a long-term deal. So as long as he stays healthy, I like the Dalvin Cook keep for me. And Deshaun Watson, I think last year was a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't think of another receiver and running back that I have that I felt more comfortable with than Deshaun.
I get it.
And
I get it.
maybe without Hopkins, I mean, not having Hopkins, I think a lot of people would be, oh man, that's going to be killer. But I honestly think that they'll find a way to make it work. But I really am high on the Texans situation because I think that deal wasn't as lopsided as people made it out to be.
No, we've talked about that a bunch.
So I like Johnson at running back. Like,
Yeah.
I think the two Johnsons at running back, I think could.
If he stays healthy, man, that's huge.
And I think he could maybe, if staying healthy is the most important part, but maybe the lack of Hopkins there allows him to use his legs a little bit more, and they have, if Bill O'Brien and his offense can come up with something that David and Duke and Deshaun in the back, Triple D in the backfield.
Is Laramie Tunsil going to cement himself there? Because he struggled when he went over there.
Yeah, he needs to. I don't know, but that was my thinking, and that
No,
could
I get
burn
it.
me.
I get it.
But I mean, I had a decent year last year, so
Well, that's like the only other person I thought of was, I think. Well, yeah. I actually I don't really know. I knew Hopkins was going to be my guy. I think in Arizona, I think he's going to have a big year. And like I said, Kamara was there. I considered some of the guys, but I couldn't pull the trigger. As in, like, I didn't think they were better than the guys I kept.
right.
That's not to say that I thought the guys I kept were better than other people. It's just like based on what I had, those were who I feel like would translate the best to the next year.
So we got about 10 minutes or so left, and we don't want to get into people we avoid or people we want because that would ruin it for our draft pending. But we can talk more about the keepers, and I don't have the list of who they had, but I think we can comment on I don't want to say if they'd be worth it to keep, because if they had no one else, that's a moot point.
Right.
But just talk about some of the players that have been kept.
Right.
So Greg kept Aaron Rodgers, so he
Okay.
kept the quarterback and Barkley. Like, that's obvious.
How do you not? Right. How do you
Barkley
not?
is a no-brainer. Rodgers, it probably, to me, depends on what else he had. I don't know what else he had,
Right.
but Aaron Rodgers is still one of the best quarterbacks in the league, so I can't fault him for that.
You're going to get an angry Aaron Rodgers because they drafted his
Yeah.
replacement. So,
Yeah, and we know how that worked out. Favre ended up starting for another, 3 years
right.
before Aaron
So,
Rodgers took over.
Aaron Rodgers is definitely
Out to prove something,
Yeah.
like I hope Dalvin Cook is.
right.
Now, Nick kept, this was absolutely a no-brainer,
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes and Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
Arguably the top two at each of their position.
Right.
Maybe not necessarily in the fantasy world, but on the field.
Right.
Mahomes
Again,
is...
and who are you keeping over him?
Right,
Like,
yeah. What argument are you making to not keep one of them?
Right.
Now my uncle Bob and his Bobcats, he kept McCaffrey. Again, obvious.
You can't not.
He did keep Kenyon Drake. Now,
Yeah.
we're high on the Cardinals, and if that offense comes together, that could be a really under-the-radar keep for him. But
Absolutely.
I don't know what else he had.
Right.
So that one's a little bit of a surprise, but if it was the best he had available, I think has a potential to really
if
help
Arizona's
him out.
offense makes the jump like you and I think they will.
Right, because they add Hopkins, you got Fitzgerald still there, and you have the young quarterback
Right.
entering the second
Right.
year.
So Kyler Murray.
If Kyler Murray is what we think he is, that could be a solid keep for him.
Yeah.
Now my dad and my cousin.
These I didn't get. No, I'm
Travis
kidding. I don't even
Kelce.
remember. I just agree with
This is not the first year they've kept Kelsey. They're high on Kelsey.
I
And
get it.
obviously, him and Kittle are the top two at the
Yeah.
position. No brainer with Mahomes being back and locked in
Yep.
there. That team's ready to compete and maybe win again. So that's no surprise to me whatsoever. And then Aaron Jones, who I think was a surprise fantasy stud
Yeah.
last year, they're banking on him being back, and I can't blame him for that.
I agree.
I think that it's a higher risk to consider him being able to do that again, but I don't know that they had any other options that you would have
Right.
kept over Aaron Jones. Now Adam was texting us about his follies with keepers in our league over the years. He talked about how he kept Kurt Warner over Peyton Manning, and
Right.
Warner retired a year later. He says he never has good luck with those. So he kept Julio Jones and Chris Godwin.
Oh man, like
I mean, that's two stud wide receivers
Right.
to start there.
and Tom Brady is Chris Godwin's quarterback now,
Right.
not Jameis Winston.
Exactly. So, and Godwin had an incredible sophomore season last year for the
Right.
Bucs. Julio Jones is still Julio Jones. I just wonder how much longer can he keep doing it?
Right.
Because I saw something ridiculous. Like, he hasn't had a year under, like, basically 1,300 receiving yards. If it was at least the last 5 years, or might have
Right.
been ever. Something
Right.
like something absurd.
Some of those receiver stats, like my favorite is that Larry Fitzgerald one, where he has more tackles than he has drops in his career.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
Because he's not playing on many, if any, special teams, so that's all meaning he's making tackles on interceptions, I guess.
Yes, interceptions and fumbles. Yes.
So yeah, crazy to think that. But yeah, stats like that are really fun. But like the ones around Julio Jones are just kind of
Yeah.
insane too. And
Yeah.
I can't fault Adam for keeping them. I had Julio Jones I think years ago when he was younger, but or maybe not. Maybe
Sometimes
I had the guy opposite
it's
him.
hard when you get those guys. When you have a good year and you've got 3 or 4. Four's not as common, but it's not uncommon if you have a really good team to have 3 guys who are all worthy of it, and you got to let someone go.
Yeah. So we talked about you with Hopkins and Kamara. I mentioned Amy kept Ezekiel Elliott and Tyreek Hill over Lamar Jackson. My uncle and I talked to my uncle Rich yesterday. He was asking questions about fantasy football and the way the draft was going to work out and what software we're using. And then we talked a little bit about the keepers and the rosters. And he was pretty high on his keepers in Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs because they're 2 young running backs. And
Yeah.
your running backs are your workhorses in fantasy.
I think Nick Chubb's going to have a really good year.
He was concerned about the concussion.
Yeah.
But I said, they'll obviously know how to handle that. And as long as he doesn't suffer another one, which, it's a
Right.
big what if. But Chubb had a huge year last year for the Browns, and if they actually play up to potential, he could have an even bigger year.
If they play up to potential, that might be one of the best, like, underrated keeper picks that we have.
And then the last one is the most interesting, just because they're the defending league champions, and their keepers inspire very little with me. And maybe I'm underrating them, but they're keeping. This is Jason and Isaac. They're keeping Chris Carson.
Yeah.
And Odell Beckham.
Yeah, I think
there's potential there.
High risk, but yeah.
But it's also hard to criticize when they are defending league champions.
Right,
you
right.
know?
Yeah, we just won. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are getting the trophy next Saturday. I don't want to be that pessimistic or critical, but I also don't know that might have been their best options.
Right, right.
There could have been an injury or a trade or a release or something that they didn't like about the other players. It's crazy to me to think that Chris Carson and Odell Beckham, if you're looking at the keepers, they're not the team that I think is coming off a victory.
Right.
Amy's team, Nick's team, Mahomes and Thomas.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to top that.
Yes.
Now, of course, Amy's team was the runner-up with Terry, so
Right.
we're not that far off. It's just, so Chris Carson and Odell Beckham. Now, again, if the Browns' offense clicks, Beckham could have a huge year because who do you cover?
Beckham can be a top 3 receiver. He can be. He hasn't been for years, but he can be. Like, man.
Yeah, so
like just from I want to watch high-level football again.
Right. I'm ready for that.
I want the Browns to be good. And I know that's blasphemous to, like, our families, because Steelers and Ravens fans, throughout our families.
Not great.
But just in terms of if that Browns team is good, that's going to be fun to watch, that AFC North.
Absolutely.
And we talked about that when we talked about the AFC North, but man, I'm kind of hoping for that. So
before we go, and I don't know if my uncle's able to watch live, I did remind him that we were having a show this evening, so if he didn't catch it live, he'll have to watch it later. Hopefully he's watching it and not listening to it, because I wore this shirt just for him. It's a Miami Miracle, which will never be lived down. It doesn't matter that the Dolphins are awful, because it's an incredible play, and I now have 2 shirts commemorating it, and I'm not going to let him forget it, ever. It's always going to be there.
Right. Take what you can get, right?
Well, the best part is that 3 of the 4 people aren't even on the team anymore, which just shows the state of the Dolphins in 2018 and 20 when that happened, and then last year.
We all agree the Dolphins are on the right track right now.
The Dolphins are going up, and the Patriots are on their way down. So, not to be outdone, I also have this.
Nice.
So I had to get this one. This is good. This is my uncle's keeper, Kenyon Drake, now an Arizona Cardinals player, but, just to go with my shirt, just want to commemorate this is a diving Rob Gronkowski. What's he even doing? What was he doing? I don't know.
No.
Weird. Doesn't play with the Patriots anymore either, so.
One quick, this is just a random football stat that I sent you the other day. That just kind of, whenever they talk about cap room and cap space,
yeah,
the Chiefs had $177 of cap space coming into this offseason.
And they signed like 3 or 4 players.
And they signed 3 of the huge
extended or
contracts.
re-signed their own players.
Right, including a $500 million deal to the quarterback. So whenever a team says we don't have cap space, it just means they don't want to have
cap space, or they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to play the game.
Yeah. Which, to be honest, that is the worst case, is that they don't know how to do it. It's better to at least fake the ignorance and say, oh, we don't have this space, because people will buy it. But, man, when I saw that, I was like, that is incredible.
Yep. Good stuff. So, real quickly before we say goodbye, we want to play one last advertisement for Small Player, Big Play.
For you, Small Player, Big Play app, the all-sports social media app for young athletes. Live stream events for your friends and family who can't be there. At home or at work, they can watch your streaming on their phones or on TV by using a mirroring device or AirPlay 2. Download the app from the App Store or Google Play and create an account using a valid email address. That's it. Now you can find friends, join groups, or make new ones. You can upload and watch your own content for free. Watch YouTube uploads for free. Even more streaming options are available with our subscription plans and in-app purchases. Download the app and start sharing with the world your passion for sports today.
So I want to thank Small Player Big Play for sponsoring the show. Again, check out Small Player Big Play in the app stores on your Apple or Google device. And the app has really taken off with the coronavirus pandemic. People not being allowed to or not wanting to go to scholastic or youth sporting events. So Small Player Big Play is a way to get into the action, keep updated with your local teams. And the app is being used by a variety of high schools and youth programs in Pennsylvania, out in Ohio, down south in the Carolinas, out in, I believe, Iowa. And this is all done locally out of Pennsylvania, and it's just spreading across the nation, which is great. And I know there's still a potential for more schools to get on board here as Pennsylvania high school sports get underway. So definitely check that out. It's available on your app stores on your phones and tablets. All right, Justin, any last words before we wrap up this episode?
No. Just looking forward to the fantasy football draft like we talked about, and I would love to be celebrating some Flyers success by next Saturday as well. So
Yes.
Not expecting 4 wins, but it would be nice if they're well on their way. That would be fun.
That would be great. That would be great. So we will not be back on this show. At least I don't think. I know I said that a month ago. We wouldn't be back till Thanksgiving, but things change, and we don't anticipate being back on this show. Episode 315 won't be until probably about 3 months from now. We will be on the Bulldog Hour, though. So if you're interested in hearing what Justin and I have to say about the Wilson High School Bulldogs football team from West Lawn, Pennsylvania, check us out at bulldoghour.com. Just hope everyone else stays healthy and safe and has a good start to the school year. And happy belated birthday to my mom, who celebrated a little over a week ago.
And happy anniversary to my parents. Their 40th anniversary today.
Oh, wow. So, happy anniversary to Jeff and Cheryl. And happy early birthday to my cousin Rick. Happy early birthday to my cousin's child Morgan. So, actually, I think it might have been my aunt's birthday too. Aunt Diane, I think, was celebrating too. There's a lot of birthdays up in New England around this time of year. So, hope everyone had or will have a good one, and we'll be back again in a few months, I guess.
Yeah, sounds
Enjoy
good.
high school sports, the Flyers playoff games, and really soon the NFL season. We'll see everyone again real soon.
Ever wish there was a sports app just for you? Introducing Small
That's a wrap
Player
on
Big
this
Play
episode
app,
of
the
the Joe
all
Mays and
sports
J-Raff
social
Show,
media app.
brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop. You can watch each weekly episode live on Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. You can also rate and review us on many of these platforms as well. We'd love to hear from you. Send your emails to the Mays Sandwich Shop inbox at joemaysandjraff@gmail.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is a part of the JMNJR Radio Network, home to other productions such as the Bulldog Hour, Tangents with Friends, and Nat Chats with Dad. Until next time,